and let me welcome to this discussion Sara Nelson. Sara is the president of the American Association of Flight Attendants, one of the great unions in this country, which represents 50,000 flight attendants at 20 different airlines. Sara, all across this country, workers are being laid off. Workers are worried about their future. There is probably no industry that has been harder hit than the airline industry. Can you tell us what's going on there and how your workers are being impacted?
Sure. So we've been on the front lines of the coronavirus for over 2 months now because, of course, our work takes us all around the world. And we have been using the training that we fought for through OSHA to be able to try to keep ourselves protected. We actually worked with the airlines to put in place protective equipment and make sure that people were getting good information, and also had the support that they needed to be able to get off the job if they needed to. The airlines didn't do everything that we asked them to do, but they did a lot. They did a lot more than we've seen in the past from the federal government. So what we then started to see is that flight attendants who were sick were actually not able to get tests. There were some who were sick and in the hospital and were told that tests were rationed to 42 a day. Another had been sick for 5 or 6 days and still couldn't get tested. But we really did our work to try to keep people safe, and we did that with our training that we've worked for and the protective gear that we've tried to have in place. And now, of course, we're worried about our jobs.
Right. So you have a dual crisis for your members. Yeah. An airplane is not a great place to be working on when people are sick in any case, and certainly with coronavirus.
Correct.
So, there are a lot of people who are no longer traveling on planes for that reason, but your people are on those planes, and they're coming from all over the world. All right.
Yeah,
so
yes, that's correct. Except for the travel restrictions.
Right. All right. So we got a healthcare crisis, and some of your people, are some of your people calling in sick now, or?
Well, yes, and because we are 80% unionized in the airline industry, we have sick leave protections, and we have been there to be able to interface with the airlines and try to help people. But this has really overtaken the industry. And so once it's in our communities, what's happening today is that the flight attendants who are still able to get work, I should be very clear, all of the industries have been running at high productivity in this country, as we know. So people have depended upon overtime hours because their pay has not increased. So to make ends meet, people have been working overtime hours to make those ends meet. And as the flights have gotten pulled down, already our flight attendants have not been able to get that work, and so people are already feeling the financial pinch. But now what we're seeing is, because this is so pervasive and we are essentially not having anyone travel, the airlines are cutting back those flights, and now there's no flights, and now we're looking at massive furloughs. Half of our workforce, if not 70 or 80% before we're done in the next 30 days, and the airlines are going to run out of money to even be able to make payroll in a couple months, if not weeks or days for some of them. Yesterday, we had the closing down of 2 different airline operations, and it's very, very difficult. And so people are really starting to understand the real hurt that the whole country is going to be facing here.
I understand that just today, was it Air Canada laid off, furloughed 5,000 workers?
Yes, half of their population. So that is the same here in the U.S., but I have to tell you that's not even really the accurate numbers. It's going to be much, much deeper than that.
All right, what happens to a flight attendant who in the near future learns that she or he is furloughed? What are their options? What happens to them?
So normally what happens is that there is a process for a voluntary leave or voluntary furloughs where we continue benefits for people, and it can be quite attractive. And normally we are able to stave off involuntary furloughs because we've been able to negotiate a rather attractive program for people who can afford to take that time off, and then also get some unemployment pay. But in this situation, the numbers are so great that there is no way that we are going to be able to get the volunteers. And what's happening now is flight attendants are going to work on their layover locations and in the airports. Restaurants are closed down. They can't get it in the hotels. They work long hours. They try to go get it at their grocery stores. Sometimes the grocery stores are closed, or the non-perishable items that they would be able to pack on their trips to be able to eat are gone. So this is the reality. We're facing a real crisis here. And so we are proposing a worker-centered relief package. No more bailouts. We've seen that in the past. Bernie, you know what we went through. We went through all of the hurt after 9/11, and we saw the kind of bailouts that happened after that. And when they're always focused on the banks and the corporations, they don't work. You have to focus on the individual people to make this work. And so our proposal is about starting with keeping the paychecks going. We don't need the federal government to be the HR solution for everyone. We already have paycheck process in place with many of our corporations. We can remove all those people who would otherwise be on unemployment, and we'd be trying to make all of this work by just keeping the paychecks going and keeping them in their jobs so that we can restart the economy on the other side of this. So that's what we're proposing, is that there's direct subsidies.
Sarah, let me just go over. If the federal government bails out, say, the airline industry, you want that airline industry to maintain their workforce and workers to continue to get their paychecks.
Yes, absolutely. And what we're saying is no more corporate bailouts. This is a worker relief program that continues the paycheck. We can use the corporate payroll systems, but that money is earmarked for going to workers. In the past, what happens is a big check comes to the corporation and they decide how to spend it. And so when they do that, they come to the unions and they say, we can't make this work, so we're going to have concessions from you. At least there's discussion when you have a union. When you don't have a union, they just force it on the workers. So that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is continue the paychecks to all the workers, keep people in their jobs, even if not on the job, able to care for their families. And yes, we're not going to have those overtime hours, so it's going to hurt still, but it is going to keep people safe and allow them to be able to shelter safely, take care of their families safely. And what we need, especially in this public health crisis, is we need as many people who can take care of themselves and are strong today to continue to be able to take care of themselves so that we can focus on the sick and vulnerable.
All right, now the irony here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in the last number of years, many of the companies in the airline industry have engaged in massive stock buybacks. Is that right?
Yes, they have. And we have opposed those every single time because that needed to go back into investing in the workers, investing in the company, or saving for more difficult times.
All right, well, what Sarah is saying, and I absolutely agree with, is we are sick and tired of bailouts for large corporations, and then these companies turn their backs on workers. This time, that is not going to be the case. So what Sarah is saying, and I think it's true for the airline industry, it's true for flight attendants, it's true for workers all over this country. Hey, corporations, if we are going to bail you out, then you're going to make whole your employees. You're not going to throw them out on the street. You're going to keep them on the payroll. You're going to maintain your infrastructure. So when this thing is over, and it will be over, workers can come back and regain their employment.
That's right. And then what we're saying is for the rest of what the airlines need to continue to keep that infrastructure in place, there should be direct loans from the government, but there should be certain requirements on those loans. So no more stock buybacks, no executive bonuses, no dividends, a $15 minimum wage, seats on the board, and bankruptcy protection so that contracts can't be broken. So these are the things that we're demanding, and absolutely no more stock buybacks. We have got to restructure the system so we're focused on the people. Now, some people have said, hey, let the airlines go bankrupt, and then we can buy them out of bankruptcy as a federal government, and we can own them, and then we can return it to the workers. That is a great idea. That is a great chess move, but we are not chess pieces. We're real people, and real people are hurting right now, need to feed their families. They're very concerned about how they're going to get through, and especially in this public health care crisis when people are dying, we do not need one more person to die because they didn't have the assistance that they needed to take care of themselves and their families.
Well, I just want to thank you, Sarah, for the great work you are doing, and you know, somebody who flies a great deal, to thank the flight attendants. And everybody has got to know, a closed chamber like a airplane is not the healthiest place in the world to be. And the disease goes around, and the airline attendants, flight attendants are there all of the time, traveling all over the world. So we thank you for the work you're doing. We thank your members for the work they're doing, and some of us in Congress are going to fight to make sure that you come out of this hole.
Thank you so much. And we hope that we're setting a blueprint for the rest of the workers around the country. We're going to make ourselves strong so that we can help other people and lift them up too. And we're not going to leave anyone behind. And I know you're all for that. Not me, us, President Sanders.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.